Ever feel like sometimes, when you're online and it's like the internet is just kind of throwing information at you? Like, it's a hurricane out there.
Yeah, yeah, I know what you mean.
Like, you're stuck in this hurricane of search results and, like, clickbait articles and videos that require, like, a PhD to understand.
Yeah, it's like we have more access to information than ever,
Right.
but somehow it's even harder now to actually find what you need.
That is a great way to put it. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. It's not just about finding the information. It's about understanding it, right?
Exactly.
And we're looking at your article, ChatGPT versus Google, revolutionizing how we learn and explore information, to kind of see how these tools can help us, well, learn better.
Yeah, I think the article, it does a nice job of, highlighting what each one is good at, what they're not so good at.
Yeah.
It's not about like which one is better.
Right. No winners or losers here.
It's more like which tool is going to help you learn better depending on what you're trying to learn.
I like that. So let's talk about Google for a second.
Okay.
The article starts off talking about the Google rabbit hole,
Yeah.
which I think we've all been down.
Oh, yeah.
You have a question. What do? You Google it, hoping for like a nice, quick, simple answer, right?
Right.
But
You
instead,
get like a million results and it's just overwhelming.
yes, exactly. Millions of results. Most of them are totally irrelevant.
Yeah, and then before you know it, you've got like 20 tabs open.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, how did I even get here?
And you're reading about like the history of the word history.
Exactly.
It's very meta. The article uses a really interesting example to talk about this whole feeling of information overload, and they use time dilation. Have you ever tried to Google time dilation?
Oh, are you kidding? It's like reading. It's like being dropped in the middle of a physics textbook,
Yes.
and they don't even give you the table of contents or anything.
Right.
You're just stuck. So much jargon, all these equations.
Yeah, and like, how do you even know where to begin with all that?
Exactly.
That's where I think, this is just me, but I think ChatGPT offers something different, something better. Instead of just like throwing all this information at you, it's almost like you're like talking to someone,
Yeah. It's like having a conversation.
Right.
And someone's explaining it to you instead of just like, here's everything, figure it out.
Good luck.
Right. It's like, let's break this down together. What do you understand so far?
Exactly. And the article actually, the author talks about learning about time dilation with ChatGPT. And they talk about how it felt like almost like having a tutor. They could ask questions and the whole thing. It just made sense.
It's about that back and forth, right? That's how we learn. Being able to ask a question, get an answer you understand. It's not just about having access to the information. It's about, can you actually understand it? Can you use it?
Right. It's about making those connections. Okay, so I'm starting to see how this whole conversational style could be like a game changer, especially, for visual learners like me. I got to see those connections to really get something. But like, what makes ChatGPT so good at personalizing that learning experience?
Okay, so think about it this way. With Google, it's like you're asking a librarian the same question every single time.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're looking for like a children's book or like a super complex scientific journal. It's the same question.
That's so frustrating.
It's one size fits all.
Right. It's like, here's advanced calculus. Good luck remembering fractions.
Exactly. And that's not how we learn. ChatGPT is different. It's more like you've got your own personal tutor.
Okay.
Right. And you can start with an easy question like, what is time dilation? Right.
But then, as you start to get it, you can ask more and more like complex questions, go deeper and deeper.
So it's not treating every question like a brand new search.
Right.
It's remembering what you talked about, what you asked before.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's building on what you already know, which is how we learn. Like, like you said, a conversation.
Right. So it's like ChatGPT is building this knowledge base with you.
Yeah, like brick by brick.
I like that.
And because it remembers, it can actually tell if you're like starting to not get it.
Oh, really?
And then it can change how it explains things to help you out.
That's really interesting. It's like it can tell when you're about to go down that rabbit hole and be like, nope, come back. Let's try this.
Which actually, that brings us to another good point from the article about like this whole idea of information overload. It's like we're all carrying around these digital junk drawers in our pockets.
Oh, it's true. And this is where like ChatGPT can be really helpful because it's like a curator,
What do you mean?
So instead of giving you every single thing, like every little piece of information that's out there,
Right.
It picks out the most important stuff, the stuff you really need to know. Think about it like a museum.
Yeah.
The curator, they don't just like throw everything they have into the museum.
No.
They pick the best stuff.
Right. The good stuff.
Right. So it's like, here's what you need to know to get started,
Yeah.
to get it. And then if you want to go deeper, just ask.
You're in control.
Exactly, you're driving. And that's really different from, Google, where it's just like, here's everything.
Figure it out.
Right. And you're like, I don't even know where to start.
Exactly. Exactly. And speaking of like feeling overwhelmed, how does ChatGPT deal with those situations where you've got like conflicting information? Because I feel like we've all been there too.
Oh, yeah.
Scrolling through a million different opinions, research papers.
Right. Like everyone's an expert. And you're like, who's right?
Exactly. And like, how do I know if any of this is true?
And that's where I think ChatGPT is really, really good. The article calls it a knowledge synthesizer, which I don't know. I kind of like that.
Okay.
So instead of just giving you all these different perspectives, ChatGPT actually like reads it all, and then it's like it tells you the story.
Okay, so like break it down for me. Let's say I'm trying to understand climate change, which there's a lot of information out there about that.
Right. And everybody's got an opinion.
Exactly. So how would ChatGPT help me with that?
So you're going to see all these different reports, scientists saying different things, all this jargon you don't understand. Instead of you having to figure all that out on your own, ChatGPT can do it for you. It's like, here's what the scientists agree on. Here are the big arguments. And here are some things that we could do about it. It does the hard work for you.
It really does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's like having a friend who's read like everything and they're like, okay, so here's what's up, but let me know if you want to like get into the detail.
Right. And that's so important, because there's just so much information out there. It's easy to get lost.
Oh, totally. And it's like everyone's an expert online, or at least they think they are. But the article also talked about something else that ChatGPT is good at, and I thought this was really interesting. It's not just about bringing all the information together. It's about how it explains things.
Right.
Like how it breaks stuff down.
It's like instead of throwing the whole Wikipedia page at you, it's like, okay, let me explain it in a way that you can actually get it. Remember our time dilation example. Like instead of hitting you with all of Einstein's theories right away, it might start with like, imagine two people walking at different speeds, something you can actually picture, and then it builds from there.
Okay, suddenly physics doesn't seem so scary.
Exactly, exactly. And that's the thing, right? When you break things down into smaller pieces, it's not so intimidating. Like, it's like building a house. You got to start with the foundation.
You can't just build a roof in the air.
Exactly, exactly. You got to start at the beginning, and then you add a little bit more and a little bit more. Make sure it all makes sense before you move on.
Right, right. And the article actually mentioned how ChatGPT, it could be more than just like reading words on a screen.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like what about people who learn better by listening or by doing things?
Absolutely. I mean, the article focused on using ChatGPT for reading and stuff, but like imagine having a conversation with it,
Okay, yeah, like actually talking to it.
Right, and asking questions in real time, or even having it like show you pictures or something.
That would be really cool. The possibilities, they're kind of endless. So as we're kind of wrapping up here, what are some of the like big takeaways you want our listeners to remember from all of this?
I think the biggest thing is like, this isn't about like saying ChatGPT is going to replace Google. It's not about that.
It's not a competition.
It's about having more options, right?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
about using the right tool for the job.
I like that.
Google's still really good for, when you're starting to learn about something, when you just want to see what's out there. But then when you're ready to really go deep, to really understand it, that's where ChatGPT can be really helpful.
So Google's the library with all the books,
Mm-hmm.
and ChatGPT is the librarian who's there to like help you find what you need.
There you go. That's a great way to put it. And just like with anything else, the important thing is to know how to use it.
So to leave everyone with something to kind of think about, I keep coming back to like what else ChatGPT could do, and the article touched on this a bit, but
Mm-hmm.
what about using it for creative stuff or for solving problems?
Right. I mean, we've been talking about how it can help us understand things that already exist, but like, what if it can help us come up with totally new ideas?
Yeah, like think in totally different ways.
Right.
Like this isn't just changing how we learn, it's changing what we can do, period.
And that's pretty amazing when you think about it.
It really is. Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Huge thanks to our expert for taking this deep dive with us.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And to all our listeners, thanks for being here. And remember, keep those brains engaged. We'll see you next time.